We are talking about, essentially, the pro-Palestinian marches. What is really behind them? And I ask that question because we know there is an underpinning of hate. We know there is an anti-Western vibe. We know there is absolutely an anti-Israel thing going on there, an anti-Jewish voice that is being thrown out, not even hidden, by the way. This is loud and proud. This is written on placards. It's shouted out of megaphones. It's worn on badges. People are not hiding their face. This isn't done under anonymous conditions with people wearing balaclavas saying terrible things, anti-Semitic things being... No. These people are saying it on camera half the time, absolutely relaxed about continuing and constantly wheeling out all manner of horrendous anti-Semitic bile to cameras in the streets. Now, whether it's a placard, whether it's something else, there appears to be no handbrake on this. And it's had a green light. Now, the police explain, and they tell us every time, actually, the way we've approached this is quite simple, so as not to inflame things and racial tensions going out of control. We arrest mostly post-protest. So we'll take the images, we'll take the pictures, and then we'll put out a have you seen this person kind of thing, and hopefully arrest from there. And that there may be something in that, but I don't imagine that that level of generosity and wide berth would be given to many other protests if you were to start shouting and chanting some of the most disgraceful things in my lifetime that I've ever heard said on public streets in front of the constabulary with a straight face. Go figure. More texts and tweets on this one. D is in Leeds. D says, I can't quite get my head around the ceasefire now. Protesters and MPs, it's not like Hamas are sitting around watching Westminster. Weapons down, lads. Labour have voted for a ceasefire. It's simply an excuse for the usual professional protesters to take to the streets and act out their moral superiority. There's another point that should be said as well on that very issue, and that is that there's nothing we can do about it. This is not our foreign policy being discussed here. This is the foreign policy of another country. Now, Israel happened to be one of our closest allies, thank goodness. They're our friends. We have similar values, but we don't run Israel. So cramming into the streets and shouting all manner of things with placards and being horrendous and horrible to those of a different religion or from a different country, it's not going to solve anything. You're in Britain, for God's sake. And I will say it again, and it's worth going into the weekend with this thought in mind. Think of Yemen. Think of the Muslims expelled, the refugees from Pakistan. Think of what's been going on in China. And I haven't even mentioned Syria, for goodness sake. Think of all of those places. Where were the protests? Outside one embassy. There might be a single placard, a lone voice, absolutely nothing, which leads me to one very uncomfortable conclusion, that this is not really about pro-Palestine. This is more about what it's against, and that is Israel, the West, and the Jewish community. We should expect more in the 21st century.